If vicious half-man, half-animal abominations of nature trapped you on a stranded train with the sort of people you couldn't trust with a nerf gun, what would you do? Big, strong, and ugly beasts are loose in the forests of England, laying in wait along the train tracks for their next weak, helpless victims to stumble into their territory. They feast on human flesh, they obey the tides of the moon, and they like to plant Trojan horses amongst their potential prey to make it easier to pick them off one by one. To survive their reign of carnage, we're going to have to stick together, avoid self-serving other than ourselves, and get down with the sickness. I'm going to break down the mistakes made, what you should do, and how to beat the werewolves in HOWL. In a train headed west out of London, a railguard dreams of death, and tonight might be his lucky night. Tube ticket taker Joe can't catch a break no matter where he turns. His supervisor is a brown-nosing anti-Ted Lasso who got the job he wanted. The passengers share a mutual, ever-growing revulsion of the inconvenience he represents in their lives, and his authority is relegated to little more than issuing penalty tickets to people who lose their receipts. It's a soulless, thankless job, and it comes with responsibilities way above his pay grade. Aboard a red-eye train, Joe delivers his welcome message with the enthusiasm of someone on downers who's been waitlisted for a human centipede. He tells the passengers that their trip tonight will last 1 hour and 49 minutes, with 8 stops between London and East Borough. On average, that's a stop every 12 minutes. Moving down the train, Joe checks the tickets of a slew of old, fat, slow, irritated characters who won't be making anybody's fantasy survival team, and they have about as much respect for him as for whoever's going to have to clean the off the floor seeping out of the train's single broken toilet. The first hour of the trip passes without issue. 2 stops from their final destination, Joe's woken from his existential crisis when the train comes to a sudden, metal-squealing stop in the middle of a dark, seemingly endless forest lit by the full moon. The Ridge. You already know what the deal is. You should know exactly what I'm about to say. Slim, sleek, low profile, athletic, hard, rugged, not fragile, not weak, not bulbous and bloated like your cheap fake leather trifle. Your wallet is carrying the fruits of your labor. The precious few hours of your life you spend slowly dying in a cubicle or on a Zoom meeting are rewarded with a couple meager fun coupons you can use to make your existence a little more tolerable. And you safeguard them with medieval technology like a peasant. This grade 2 burnt titanium Ridge wallet locks 1 to 12 cards in between scratch-resistant RFID blocking metal using elastic straps without stretching out, and keeps cash on hand with spring steel clips, while their accompanying burnt titanium key case uses their patent-pending tension plate system to organize, secure, and lock in your keys. Both come with a lifetime warranty and 99-day risk-free trial. That's right, this wallet will outlive you. Though I'm not sure how much of an accomplishment that'll actually be. Upgrade your wallet, upgrade your key situation. Use my code NERDEXPLAINS for 10% off. The driver recites a boilerplate message to reassure everyone that everything is fine, and says they're delayed momentarily because something is on the line. Then, without informing any of the crew, he opens the door to the conductor car and hops out to wander back down the length of the train alone. Sir, I thought you said you stopped to avoid hitting something. So what are you looking for? This guy's up to something. Joe's forced back into service industry mode to deal with the collateral damage of carts overturned, passenger freakouts, and that puddle that's still on the floor. Outside, the driver slowly makes his way down the train searching for something. Looks like stags have the same tendency in front of trains that they do in front of cars. It's that or something chased it onto the tracks. As a branch snaps behind the driver in the forest, we can guess which. We're gonna need a bigger train. But seriously, Kate, you're not going to look outside to see what jolted you sideways in your seat like that? I get it. After fighting all those cave monsters, new scares just don't hit the same way. Joe and food trolley worker Ellen finally break open the conductor car and find it empty. Joe opens the door and calls out into the night, but the driver doesn't respond. Joe moves down and opens the first set of sliding doors, then stands there waving his flashlight randomly at the trees and foliage at the edge of the tracks. Do you think he wandered into the woods for no reason? You want to try calling your driver's name again? Maybe tell everyone to cover their ears, leave a door open, and use the train's comm system as a megaphone. He seals the train and tries to radio for help. The reception is spotty, and the guy on the other end has to repeat himself. But eventually, they learn it'll be 4 hours before anyone can fix the train. Definitely not the end of the world. Obviously, the passengers react to the news as if they've all been condemned to Ohio for the rest of eternity. They demand to speak to the driver, forcing Joe to admit he's missing. Not gonna lie, that's a bit unsettling, but sounds more like an inconvenience and a weird story to tell your friends than anything else. And it inspires the exact reaction we'd all probably have in this situation.
But the station can't be more than, what, 2 miles walk?
I'm in.
Walking is the obvious solution here before we know what's waiting for us out there. Like I said, there were 8 stops along this 109-minute long journey. The average train speed in England is around 60 miles per hour, or 95 kilometers per hour. Basically, they travel a mile a minute, meaning the average distance between stops is 12 miles. Not an easy distance, but not impossible. However, average walking speed is around 3 miles per hour, so this journey could take the 4 hours. Same as getting the train fixed. Seems like an easier decision to me to just kick your feet up and chill. We don't know how long ago the train left the last stop, so we don't know whether the previous or next station is closer. If it were me, I'd be checking the manifest in the conductor cab to see how far we traveled before the train stopped. Then head for whichever station is closer, if that's the route we're gonna take. Joe panics. His job guidelines say he can't let anyone off the train, or he'll lose his job. But the peer pressure and self-loathing eat away at his resolve faster than Jägermeister on a reluctant karaoke singer. In seconds, the 9-person caravan has disembarked and begun trudging along the edge of the track, oblivious to the pairs of shining eyes watching them from the forest. They don't make it far before something rustles nearby. When Jed suggests it might be the conductor, Joe and Ellen wander away from the track in the woods to check. Talk about wasteful. Look at all that meat left on the bones. Joe and Ellen rush back to the group and tell them to run. A ghastly howl rings out just behind them. The group bolts for the train, leaving the 2 slowest passengers to try and keep up. Joe opens the door and the mad scramble aboard begins. Of course, the old couple are ages behind. Without a weapon, there are only 2 options here. Save the elderly, risk the monster, or sacrifice the elderly, become the monster. Tough call, but... Come on, hurry! I would yank that woman inside so fast, she'd probably crash into the far bench long before the beast outside got a chance to sink its teeth into her. Now's not the time to be gentle. The beast finally releases Jenny's mutilated leg, and the group gets the door shut. Blood pours out of her calf in waves. They carry her to a bench and tie a flimsy, soft coat belt around her thigh. But it isn't tight enough to stop the blood flow, so enjoy watching an old lady bleed out, I guess. How many times do I have to go over what makes a proper tourniquet? You can't just tie a handkerchief around their leg like you're tying your shoelaces. Suddenly, the beast slams into the car from the side. The passengers remain motionless and as quiet as possible on the floor as they listen to it stalking down the length of the train. Its howls growing more distant until they all assume the beast is gone. Rookie mistake. Always begin a survival scenario by assuming there's more than one enemy. Joe tries calling out over the radio for support, but it's not working anymore. Billy tells Joe that his dad used to work on engine repairs and points to the fuel gauge on the train's dashboard. He says either the fuel tank or line must have been damaged in the stop. Until it's patched, they ain't going anywhere. Well, look at that. We got a tier 1 draft pick in our procedurally generated survival lineup. For now, we'll work with what we've got, but lucking into a train whisperer is a bit convenient for my tastes. Next, you'll tell me there's an animal trainer on board too. Owen Grady's gotta be around here somewhere. I hate icebreakers as much as the next officer office work survivor. But we already hit the lottery with baby MacGyver over here. Who knows what skills everyone else is working with unless we ask. Then, we need to work quickly to get Billy under the train as soon as possible. Waiting for the railway's maintenance to show up is just waiting for a different kind of bait to arrive. There's no way to contact or warn them about the monsters without cell reception or radio, so they're essentially walking into their own slaughterhouse. If they come by car, we might be able to use it as an escape vehicle, but who knows if we can reach the vehicle, whether we'll all fit, or if werewolves swallow sets of keys whole. Our first goal needs to be scouring the entire train for weapons. In a few minutes, we'll learn that there's fire axes on board, and probably one per compartment. Time to round them all up. We will also learn they have access to some tools, including an electric screwdriver. I would be using that and anything else to unscrew the vertical support pipes in each compartment to use as lances or spears. Basically, arm everybody. I'd like to suggest using excess clothing to create torches, as most things hate fire, and it's an easy way to keep animals at bay. Unfortunately, Billy's going under the train to fix a broken fuel line. One flame in the wrong place, and Billy's a charred, sticky mess under a train on fire. Plus, it'll draw attention. It'd be better to draw attention in the right way, by rigging some sort of lure at the far end of the train. A sound or light that will pull the beast's attention away from us while we sneak out to protect Bill while he fixes the train. Instead, Joe tells the group they'll just have to wait for help to arrive. They guess about what sort of animal is out there.
It wasn't an animal. It was more like a man.
And you know this how exactly. 90% of you were in the train when it attacked you. A noise suddenly scares the group. Joe, Billy, and Adrian inch their way towards the sound, looking like three versions of the same man. The out-of-service toilet door is shaking, but it's just a trapped passenger who slips and turns out to be more scared that he missed his stop than that there's a crazed man-bear pig trying to pick off passengers. Time passes. Ellen checks Jenny's leg wound. It's already gooey and definitely infected. The door rattles as the beast returns for more. Nina's phone gets a tiny bit of cell reception. When she suddenly gets a call, she answers, but she isn't prepared to give the right information, so passengers yell. The caller yells, and she panics. She should immediately say, "Shut up," and listen carefully. We're in danger on the Alpha line between Barracks Hill and East Borough. Get the police out here now. Then repeat when the person hopefully stops speaking. The last thing we need to do is add confusion to the comms and be making loud noises right next to a window.
Give me that thing.
Nina's ripped out of the train, torn apart. If the screams and torrents of viscera are anything to go off of. Afterward, everyone's reduced to little puddles of panic and frozen fear. Jed shuts them all up with a rousing pep talk, telling them it's just an animal, and it's their job to make the hunt more difficult for it. Luckily, everyone on this train has watched Dawn of the Dead. They crank out 2 electric screwdrivers from nowhere and begin bolting metal grates and weird scaffolding across the windows. Great! Once you're done with that, how about unscrewing those poles to use as spears? Or I guess we can all just sit here and wait for it to barge in. The problem here is that by now, the final station in East Borough should be wondering where this train is. At least an hour's elapsed by now, if not longer, meaning they're late for their arrival by at least half an hour. Another train should have come along down this track. Maybe this is the last train of the night, but especially if that's true, someone down the line should be trying to contact this train, and when they can't, they should send someone. Or maybe my expectations are too high for UK transport. Since no one's arrived, we have only 2 options. Fix that fuel line, or try and wait it out until dawn. Barricading is a solid strategy, but we don't know if it'll hold against our enemy, and it puts us in the weaker defensive position, instead of getting ourselves out of here. Life philosophy you gotta live by. Nobody is coming to save you. Adrian approaches Joe to make a deal.
Maybe you and I can get out of this. Survival of the fittest, my friend.
Look, don't let anyone tell you saving yourself is cowardly. Chances are, if a wolf starts mauling you, nobody's gonna do jack to save you. Did you see them all rip into this poor up until this point? Oh, now that on fire, everyone's being real polite to guilt you into manning the walls for them. Not worth dying for.
Screw you guys, I'm I'm going home.
I do agree with this guy's plan, except for 2 reasons. 1, anybody born on third base who tries to negotiate like this will 100% toss you to the Wolves to buy himself a head start. He's as much a danger as the Wolves, so before we bolt out of the back door, we'd need to incapacitate him or sneak out and lock the door behind us with him inside. 2, there could be multiple werewolves, so running ain't a sure bet. Barricading until help arrives is still probably the best bet. At the back of the car, Jenny takes a turn for the worse.
Jenny!
Because despite the oversaturation of zombie movies, we still ignore obvious warning signs from infected bites on loved ones. Jed, apparently black bloody vomit is a secondary concern after a missing passenger. The large dude from the toilet has silently stealth unhooked all our supposedly strong monster defenses without anyone noticing so he could return to the bathroom. Adrian wants to reseal the room and leave him out there, but Joe can't do that. While we absolutely should have included the toilet section in her monster barricade, I gotta side with them here. A fortress only keeps you safe if you stay in the fortress. Big Boy's gonna have to come back on his own, while we use our time actually barricading the door properly. Joe goes after the guy, only to find him trapped back in the toilet with the janky door. He starts spamming the broken door handle and shouting and banging, which only draws the monster right to him. With all due sympathy, shut the up. All you did was ring the dinner bell. Joe starts jangling the barricaded section door, begging to be let back in, while inside, Adrian and Kate start disassembling the pile of junk in front of the sliding doors to attempt a desperate escape. Joe gets a single glimpse of the creature right before Billy yanks him inside. They shut the door and security measure by putting a wrench in the door handles, which might work if the doors opened inwards instead of sliding sideways. The beast breaks through the flimsy barricade in seconds. It's the werewolf equivalent of that merman from Cabin in the Woods. It backhands her so hard, she flies down the train car and crashes to the floor. The werewolf stalks forward to finish her, when the little survival tribe that could finally gets its act together for half a second. Am I actually impressed for once? Kate stops Matt from continuing to wail on the thing, which, like, why? That thing ain't dead until its head is lying halfway down the train car. See what I mean? Killing it only seems to alert the other pack members in the woods, and Jenny starts going feral. Her voice drops an octave and becomes guttural. Her wheezing is half growl, and she stops responding to her name. I'd say it's pretty clear what's going on here. Adrian grabs a wrench and lunges for Jenny, warning everyone that she's obviously infected. He puts up a pretty good fight until they disarm him, and Joe knocks him back with a punch. They use a belt to tie him up right beside a future werewolf. Finally, desperate enough to attempt what they should have done much earlier, Billy, Joe, Ellen, and Matt decide to fix the train. The steps to running the controls are just complicated enough that both Joe and Ellen need to do it, while Matt and Billy head outside, armed with one flashlight and the fire axe. So not enough people. The howls didn't stop when the werewolf had his head caved in. You guys should know there are more out there. Billy finds the torn fuel line and half tapes it when Matt gets distracted by a familiar voice calling from the woods. It's Nina begging for help, which is like kryptonite for a guy riding high on taking down a werewolf almost single-handedly. Matt picks up his axe and abandons Billy under the train to wander off into the woods following Nina's voice. Dude, you don't know anything about these monsters. For all you know, it's like the shapeshifter from Forest of Death that can mimic other people's voices. If it is Nina, you need to bring backup. Wait until Billy's done with his critical life-saving task, and then return to the train for reinforcements before going out to conduct a blind search through werewolf territory. Matt follows her voice until he hears it above him. And that's nightmare fuel, and it's made even worse by what comes after. Matt gets all of 20 feet, stumbling through the dark woods before 3 more lycanthropes surround him and take him down like a wounded gazelle. Billy finally gets the fuel line fixed, and Joe and Ellen get the train running. A little too late for Billy to get back inside. As the werewolves converge on his scent, he pulls himself up into the train chassis to avoid detection. Clever, and I admire the core strength. He'll need it. Joe and Ellen turn on the front headlights and see the things that own the night. Ellen slams on the thrust lever. Billy grabs the train's undercarriage again as the train takes off down the tracks. The thing King Douche warned about finally happens. Jenny transforms into a werewolf. Kate unties Adrian, which turns out to be the last mistake she'll ever make. He spots the beast over Kate's shoulder through the window. Like I said, when the walking hemorrhoid gives you every excuse not to trust him, don't. Back aboard the train, Adrian strikes Jenny from behind with a wrench, but when he goes for the kill, Jed instinct punches him. Well, he won't have to live with that mistake for very long. At this point, Jed and Jenny are beyond help. Our best option is to wait until she's neck deep in all that aged beef and then skewer them both through the head with a pole or power drill. Killer's choice. Instead, Adrian tosses his only weapon at her. Idiot. The leaking fuel line reopens and the train stops again. Adrian saved at the last moment when Joe does the first sensible thing in the last 2 minutes. Now behead her. Come on, we've already been through this. Take her head off. 3 more werewolves stalk through the train toward the barricaded compartment. Joe goes to open the door so they can escape, but Adrian has other plans. He says they won't stand a chance running through the woods unless the beasts are distracted by someone left behind. He pulls the metal stake from Jenny's heart and slams it across Joe's back, knocking him down. A scuffle breaks out, but Adrian seizes his chance and traps them in before opening the doors and fleeing. The doors close behind him, sealing Joe and Ellen in as the werewolves reach them. Billy draws their attention. Sometime in the 20 seconds between the train stopping and the werewolves boarding, he managed to craft a Molotov cocktail. My man. He lights a werewolf on fire and keeps the others at bay for 10 whole seconds with a torch before Joe and Ellen get the doors open. They leap out just as Billy's pulled back into the burning wreckage, and they just leave him. God, the one useful person on your team who saved you twice now, and you just left him. There's no one left to root for. In the woods, Joe hears the monsters coming and tells Ellen to run while he stays behind as a distraction. I'm not sure she's worth it, man. The final fight begins and ends pretty quickly, but Joe gives it everything he's got. Ellen reaches the next station looking like she's escaped a war zone, and Adrian, well, he's turned into Wolf Chow. Becoming a werewolf is technically surviving, and since it's probably a full moon only kind of deal, it'd probably be pretty sweet, all things considered. I mean, sure, you gotta murder some folks, but there's plenty of Adrians in the world. Surviving the attack of the lycanthropes is possible, with better people and more coordination and common sense. If it were me, my first priority once I knew we weren't alone would be to arm everyone and get Billy the time he needed to fix the fuel line. Rigging a diversion at the far end of the train might have distracted them long enough to see the repairs through. If not, the fire axes and torches could have bought us the time. We can't know whether they would have attacked during the repairs, since they didn't until Matt stumbled off into the forest in search of his chivalry Boy Scout badge. But even if they had, and even if we'd lost 1 or 2 people in the process, it's possible almost everyone else could have escaped long before Jenny became a beast herself. For those reasons, I think HOWL was beaten. And remember, nobody is coming to save you.